What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to break down some very important information about Tesla. I'm going to talk about the setup on Tesla right now, what's going on with the overall market, and also some very important news for next week as Jerome Powell is going to be speaking again. Before I break anything down about all this information and talk about the technicals on Tesla, though, let me just mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks with a $100 cash reward. The offer ends in just 7 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, guys, so Tesla had a very, very interesting day. Looking at the potential setup on Tesla, there is clearly a possible head and shoulders developing, and it's very likely that this will develop looking at the current charts on SPY and the NASDAQ and many other tickers like that. However, we need to wait for that confirmation if Tesla will truly show weakness or if Tesla would end up making an attempt to break out. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So for the people out there who turned into like mega bears looking at Tesla and they saw this thing like drop to like 252, you have to remember that yesterday, for example, Tesla gapped down all the way down to about 248 and got a very big bounce, a pump up to 266, right? So today what happened was Tesla came down to 252. Then it started to pump again and it went all the way up to 262.5, almost up there where the resistance is. And in my zones, I have them right here. We had this resistance right here, right? If Tesla had broken above like 260, you'd be watching like 262.5. That's where the top was. And if it managed to break above this resistance zone, it could have gone all the way up to 265 or come very close to doing so, but it ended up failing after that. And then what you'd be doing basically is looking at the low made from the pre-market. So during the pre-market, Tesla's low was like at 258. A break below that would be a very bearish signal, and that's what ended up happening for the day. Tesla just broke below that. But if anything, it started to look weak and it gave us more confirmation that, yeah, Tesla tried to break out. You know, this thing is very resilient and wants to keep fighting, and it really wanted to keep going. You could see it today. It tried to push up. It spent a large chunk of the day pumping and pumping, but Tesla ended up failing. Now, in my video from yesterday, I gave you guys both the bullish and bearish cases, and I told you guys that if you want to turn bullish, we have to break and hold 265. There's always that possibility. If we failed to break 265, then Tesla would have this, head and shoulders formation being validated. Now, there's still time for Tesla, so I'm not going to say that, I'm 110% bearish just yet. I'm going to be watching for how it performs for the time being, depending on news and different catalysts. But for now, we're going to be watching this 50 EMA, and it is looking a lot weaker on the 4-hour time frame. So there's a good chance Tesla will continue to sink. But we have to watch and see how it reacts to this like 252 level to about 250. And if Tesla breaks below that, the last final support, the last thing that could give hope for the bulls is going to be 247. I mean, if that breaks, then that's it. Tesla's going to sink pretty hard. I would be watching this right here. Basically, I'd hide the extended hours and then look at this gap down here all the way down to 235. It's likely going to fill this gap if we break below 247 and we start just tanking. That's very likely. So I'm going to be watching that. There's also some gap support at the very low 240s, but I really doubt that's going to hold us. I think this is going to act as a magnet and start attracting Tesla down. We also have the 50 EMA currently at around 231 almost, and this thing could start trending up over the next couple of trading days to get closer to here. So there's a very good chance it's going to come down, but once again, I'd be watching for confirmation. Now, I'm a very, very careful trader. I watch for these levels. I didn't turn immediately extremely bearish as soon as we opened on Tesla, seeing Tesla down. I knew it was gapping down, and you could see it tried to bounce and spent many hours today just pumping and pumping, trying to push up. It wanted to do it, and it just failed to do so. So we're getting clear signs that Tesla's weakening, and there's likely downside now going to continue to come. I think the market is going to play a role in dictating this, but there are other things I want to discuss for you guys. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Let me add on that when Tesla looks like this, right, with this potential setup, I'm going to be watching support also on SPY. I think SPY has a very critical level. For Tesla, it looks like this, looking at it on TradingView, right? Clearly, this is looking more bearish than bullish. The odds favor downside now, looking at it failing to break 265, but my mind will change if we manage to hold above 265. For now, it's not really doing that because it has this imbalance at like 275. It just looks more bearish now. Unfortunately, it really wanted to break out, just failed on us. So then we're going to just be watching these next levels, 250 to 247 specifically. That's going to be like our last hope for the bulls. And then it has like a lot of room for downside after that, all the way down to this like 235 level or even lower than that by a little bit. But just so you guys know, this is not going to be the end of the world because we have deliveries coming out a little bit after the end of next week. So by Sunday of next week, not next week, we have Sunday during the very beginning of July. So it's like a little bit over a week away when the actual report is going to come out. And Tesla could make a big reversal depending on how that goes. So we're just going to be watching and seeing how Tesla does. But I want to now focus your attention to SPY right now because something very big is going on. We can't just look at Tesla. We also have to look at SPY and many other things going on in the markets. Basically, I have mapped out both the bullish and more like bearish cases on SPY. There's a possible head and shoulders developing on SPY as well. SPY is looking more bearish looking at the current trend on it as this thing failed to get that breakout. I was hoping this thing would try to push up, failed to do so. Unfortunately, not even the market makers were going to pump it up as the algos took over. And there's a lot of selling pressure that's still present in the market. But one of the reasons why the market had a lot of selling pressure is because we had Jerome Powell speaking and saying lots of hawkish things. Also, the Fed speakers today were very hawkish, and that slowed the market down quite a bit. I have one warning for everyone, and that is by next week, okay, there's not much going on for Monday. For Tuesday, we have a lot of data coming out involving consumer confidence and just like the PMIs and things like that. But the big day is going to be Wednesday because Jerome Powell is going to be giving two speeches. One is going to be going on during market open on Wednesday. Powell's going to be giving a speech. Could Powell intentionally try to be more hawkish to rug pull the markets? That's a possibility. So be very careful. As of recent, he has been a lot more hawkish. And we've seen what's happened to the market as a result of him speaking. The market has been slowing down. But then after the market opens, Powell's going to give a speech for maybe an hour or two. Then the market's going to just react and then do its thing. Then at night, okay, late at night, at least over here in the West Coast or even on the East Coast, Jerome Powell is going to be giving another speech. So he's going to be giving two speeches, one in the daytime and one at night. And I believe what he says on Wednesday night of next week is going to impact the markets for Thursday. So how the market opens, how the market performs could be impacted by what he says again. So this guy is going to impact the markets for Wednesday and Thursday of next week. It's going to be wild. And honestly, guys, I don't see why he has to be speaking this much. He already made his points in front of the U.S. Congress and the committee members. He just wants to keep opening his mouth, and it's going to have a big effect on Tesla and the markets. So all we can do is just react to it and just be ready. I mean, there's not much else I could say. Until then, though, just please be ready for that. Now, as far as Tesla goes, we have some news right over here about Washington State, which could be the next state to require Tesla charging standards. Basically, they are trying to incentivize more and more different EV companies to basically adapt to and support Tesla's EV charging plug so that this could help them tap into federal funds. This will benefit them from a taxation standpoint, and it's going to help them continue to grow. They also want to help improve the state's infrastructure with different plans to fuel alternative fueling sources and to continue to grow with that. So we'll wait and see how this goes. This is some pretty good news for Tesla as we're starting to see more and more support amongst different parts of the USA and different countries going forward and different companies all over the world. And I consider this nothing but good news for the company moving forward. There wasn't much else news that came out that was that impactful. I mean, the market did slow down. We saw futures slow down a bit, and we saw the market slow down as well. So it's just worth noting. But finally, just get ready for Powell for tomorrow. We're just going to be watching, not tomorrow, sorry, for next week. Next week, Powell is going to be speaking, unfortunately. And then it's going to have a big effect on Tesla moving forward. For SPY, by the way, let me just add that what I was going to say is SPY is looking weaker, right? It's looking a little bit more bearish now. It's downtrending, but there's going to be one confirmation to watch for. I was about to talk about this and I mentioned Powell. So tomorrow, I keep saying tomorrow, I mean next week. Sheesh. Next week, okay? The market is likely going to be continuing to trend. The trend is looking more bearish, so we may see this thing continue to sink a bit. But we have a very critical support on SPY at this 430 level. We need to hold 430. If we hold 430, the market has potential to bounce and start continuing to push to the upside, right? 430 is going to be key. That's the next major demand zone. If 430 fails, for whatever reason it is, maybe it's Jerome Powell speaking, maybe it's because PCE comes out next week, whoever knows what it's going to be, a bank failure, who knows? If we break below 430, okay, the whole market is going to get rug pulled. Tesla's going to get rug pulled, right? QQQ is going to get rug pulled simultaneously because it's running on a very similar algo. We're going to see lots of stocks. Nvidia will likely slow down a bit. Meta, Apple could dictate this as well, depending on the news. And if SPY breaks 430, we're going to be watching this gap over here around this 422 area. It's going to most likely come all the way down there, in my opinion. And 420 is going to be the next support zone to watch for. If that breaks, then the next gap is going to take this thing likely down to like the 410 to 411 area. I'm not too worried about 410 to 411 just yet. We have to watch for like 420 first. I always watch for confirmation, and I'm very careful with trades, especially in a market that's this volatile. But for now, I just want to remind you guys that support is going to be 430. We have to watch this very carefully. This will affect Tesla and the entire market. So be very careful and see how this reacts going into next week for the market. All right, so for Tesla, like I said before, the technicals are not looking the best for the bulls. The bears have a big edge, and the bears are going to be arguing that there's this head and shoulders. Yes, it is valid. Yes, it's more likely going to play out now, but there is still some hope for the bulls if this thing could try to break above 265. It's just looking less and less likely now, just looking at the trend. I mean, we're looking very bearish on the 4-hour time frame. The trend is basically valid now. We have lots of different confirmations from different technicals suggesting the same thing. There's no like sign that it's coming to this imbalance zone right now. It looks like it's starting to become more distributive. And on top of that, let me just add that we could look at this zone right here. We basically formed another bearish divergence somewhere. I have to find it on the chart. I think like right here, there's this bearish divergence developing on the 1 hour, also on the 4 hour, and now it's starting to show signs of playing out. The reason why I didn't call this like thing crashing or like making a big move to the downside yet is because we need some confirmation. And if you look at today, like this thing tried to break out. It wanted to break out, and it just became clear that it failed to do so. And now there's more room for downside. It just seems more likely. But we still need more confirmation for the bigger drop, and that's if we start breaking below like 247. That would be it for Tesla. That's going to be the nail in the coffin, and we're likely going to see a lot more downside. Now, that's completely fine. That's completely fine because when you zoom out of Tesla on the daily, I mean, this thing is still very strong. Tesla dropping like $10, $15, that's completely fine. We're up over $100 since May. Since mid-May, we're up over $100. So it's okay if this thing drops another like, $20 from it. I'm completely fine with that. Completely fine with that. Nothing wrong with that. The daily is also about to turn bearish on the MACD right now. So we're just getting a lot of signals suggesting the same thing. Tesla's getting some price exhaustion. It's completely fine. We will see what happens later on. Yes, it could drop going into next week, but it's going to depend a lot on deliveries after that. Deliveries come out, I believe, next Sunday, or I would say next Sunday, the one following this one. We'll have to wait and see on that as well. I have some data on that for tomorrow's video. But until then, please stay safe, remain calm, cool, and collected. Do what you have to do on Tesla. Thank you all so much for listening. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla in the market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright, and peace out.